Okay, I would like to call this meeting to order. And we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. You'll say that with me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now we can have the roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Ms. Regola Dye, Ms. Regola, can you hear me?
Yes. Couldn't find the button.
Mrs. Getzman,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, thank you. We'll begin with a motion to approve the resolution 27, which is declaring an emergency and amending the board bylaw 167 regarding board members' physical attendance at a board meeting. And given that this meeting of the Board of Education is being conducted electronically as permitted under Section 12 of House Bill 197, and given that there is no practical means under this electronic format by which the board can facilitate public participation during this meeting, I hereby invoke the provisions of Board Bylaws 0169-1, providing for public participation to be waived pursuant to paragraph A of that bylaw, as it is necessary for the administration of the board's business. If any members of the community do have items of concern, please feel free to contact us via our email. It's on the website, each of the board members' email addresses. So if you have concerns, please feel free to contact us. And I would entertain then a motion for approval of that resolution.
I move that we approve.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Regola Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I think I heard Mrs. Getzman first, so thank you for that second. Were there any questions regarding the resolution? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola Dye,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. We can go ahead then with approval of the minutes, and I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the March 16th regular meeting.
So moved. Regola Dye.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Ms. Regola Dye. Do I have a second?
Second, Steve Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And were there any questions or corrections? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Regola Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Comments of board members. I guess I'll begin by saying we welcome you to our first electronic board meeting. We haven't done this before, so bear with us if everything doesn't go perfectly smoothly. And we're glad that you were able to follow along with us. And we hope the meeting goes well this evening. I'd just like to shout out a thanks to all of our administrators, our teachers, our parents and students for these are unusual circumstances, and I know we're all working hard to do our best to have online learning and to resource our students as best we can. So we thank you, all of the staff that are working so hard to provide meals and to call students and to have online classes, which is all a new event for us. So I just want to thank everybody and our superintendent for his wonderful leadership. And thank you so much, everybody. And I'll give other board members a chance to welcome you and say hello. Maybe we'll begin. Mrs. Getzman, would you like to say something?
Thank you. Again, just thank you to all of our parents, and our teachers and our administrators. Again, just echoing what Dr. Bennett said a minute ago. I know these are uncharted waters for many of us, and many parents were not meant to be teachers. And I think there's been a newfound appreciation for many teachers, and I just am grateful that parents are continuing to enforce education at home as we continue this journey forward. Thank you. Hats off to all of the seniors. I sit in my home with one. Disappointed for sure, but we also know that this is what's best at this point in time. So hats off to all 2020 graduates. You are all in our thoughts and prayers, and you are strong. Keep the head up, and we will get through this.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzman. Mr. Thompson, would you like to share?
Sure. First of all, I do see, Bill, why you referenced me as Andrew, since on the screen it says Andrew Thompson. So when I dig into it, the email to me has Andrew on it. So I am honored to be referred to as my son. So, but anyhow, I would I couldn't say it any better than what Dr. Bennett and Jody have said. The amount of work and effort that everyone in the Mount Vernon City Schools has put in to try to make this as successful as can be is unbelievable. I know it was disheartening today for a lot of people to hear that we weren't going to be able to come back to school. I know it certainly is a scary thought to have come back, and then something happens. So we just have to navigate through these waters as best we can. But one thing's for certain, it has been proven by our school district that they can rise above the circumstances and navigate through them. And I just really thank everybody for that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Ms. Regola-Dye?
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Greetings to you, and I hope and pray that all of you and your family are safe and well. I think that we've all learned a great deal during this crisis, and I think one of the things that we've learned and that I have continued to learn is how vital our great public school system is to our communities. I can't thank enough our staff and administrators for what they've done for the benefit of our children, and we will continue to do that. And I said before, we'll be here for you, and we know you're there for us. So God bless, and everyone stay well. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mr. Workman?
Thank you. Well, certainly very nice things have been said, and it's hard to add much more to it, but just wanted to say hello to everyone virtually. This is certainly unprecedented times. There's a lot of firsts that we have been through, probably never thinking we would have to do this. But I would certainly like to thank Mr. Cedar and his staff, the teachers and parents, and everything sounds like it's going well there, but there's certainly challenges with everything that we do. But as others have said, we are certainly here to help support you in any way that we can, and we'll continue to do that. You know, with school not being resumed, probably expected that, but we will all get through this. Certainly we've heard it many times, we're in this together, and I do believe that. And as long as we stay strong, we will get through this and hopefully are stronger on the other side. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll continue our meeting then with accommodations and communications. And Mr. Cedar, were you going to do this, or did you want me?
I can take it from here. So
Okay,
again, I
thank
too
you.
would like to welcome everybody to our first virtual meeting. We practiced this a couple different times to go YouTube live. We've been doing Zoom meetings now for about 4 weeks and have gotten much better at it. But to take it that one extra step to go YouTube live is a whole nother ballgame. I want to thank John Fry for kind of being behind in the control booths trying to make this happen. And hopefully for all of our listeners out there or our viewers, you get a chance to be a part of this virtual board meeting. So thank you. I did want to make a commendation. Recently, we received some information from Deanna Badger. She's a high school art teacher, about some recognition. You can see that there. Congratulations to Taylor Dubusky and Cami Miller. They had artwork selected at the state level judging of the Ohio Governor's Youth Art Exhibition. Unfortunately for Cami and Taylor, the award ceremony was canceled due to COVID-19, and they will eventually receive an award letter, a state certificate, and in the exhibition catalog. They did put together a neat little video. I thought I would share it with you. It's about 2 minutes. And so let me start that up here and I'll just let it play. All right, so really a nice little video put together by Deanna Badger and I think the art folks at the high school. And so congratulations to all of those young people on really some fascinating work. So I thought I would just share that with you since our board agenda is a little lighter today. And we'll go ahead and move on down in the agenda. We have no report from our student government. No reports from MVEA or OPSI, and of course we have halted the public participation for tonight. We have no, do we have any board items for discussion?
Not that I know of.
I do have one addition to the agenda for tonight. It came in today. It's a personnel agenda item under certificated and licensed staff. And I believe it's for Deanna Dee Severance. Dee Severance has turned in her resignation, and I believe that's on the agenda today. If it didn't get put on there, we'll make sure it gets put on there correctly in one way or another, but it's highlighted here. Under superintendent's report, I have a number of things to share with you today. The first is a teaching and learning update during the COVID-19. So we've been now 4 weeks into this online remote learning process. I'm going to pull this up for you. And let me see if I can't blow it up a little bit. Everybody see that okay? All right, so I'd like to go down here. Here's some important news. Some of you alluded to this news in your introductions. On Monday, April 20th, 2020, Governor DeWine physically closed K-12 education buildings for the remainder of the year. While there is still an expectation of continued online remote learning, school buildings will remain closed for the remainder of the year. And I know that while that was not a surprise to many of us, it was still the announcement of it that kind of makes you sit back and take a deep breath. You feel certainly disappointed and a bit disheartened, especially for our seniors, but for our students in general and for our staff, quite frankly. While the staff is making the best of a difficult situation, they would love to have their kids in their classrooms every day. And today's announcement really kind of cements the idea that we'll be doing online remote learning for the rest of the year. So that was an important news update I wanted to share. Did want to share a little bit about the process that we're engaged in now. The first 3 weeks, when we were closed on March 16th, we had 3 weeks where we had to kind of ramp our teaching up in a lot of ways. For the first time, teachers began to think about online learning, about using technology in a little different way, trying to understand and find the right blend and balance. Fortunately for us in grades 6 through 12, we've been one-to-one Chromebooks all year. And so that transition was a little bit different. And while I say it was different and a little easier, they had their Chromebooks every day in school. And now they're not in school. And so there certainly was a transition. That very first week, we ramped up and were able to distribute Chromebooks to grades 4 and 5. Then the second week, we're able to distribute Chromebooks to grade 3. And in the third week, the last week before spring break, we were able to give a Chromebook to all students in grades 2. So currently, we have students in grade 2 through grade 12 who have a Chromebook and can do some form of online remote learning. Unfortunately, or maybe based upon where they're at and their skills and abilities, K1 is still working in a remote environment where they pick up packets at school. We had our spring break, and then we jumped into our second of a 3-week online remote learning. We thought this was going to last until May 1st. We've just now completed our 4th week of online learning. I can tell you, I've been in a lot of classrooms. Teachers are getting better and better and better at this every day. At the beginning, we had some hiccups, and then we start to see teachers getting more and more comfortable, more and more used to it. The communication continues to get better and better. We've got great back-end support with technology and our tech department. So we're getting better and better and better at this every day. Is it ideal? Is it what we would like to have? No, but it is what we have. And I think we're doing a much better job of it. We have learned some lessons along the way. I have shared these in a couple different formats, but thought I would do it here. While technology is an invaluable tool, what we've really learned is that it can never replace an outstanding teacher working face-to-face with amazing students. Again, wonderful tool, but we need our kids with us. That's the most ideal. We've also learned that flexibility is essential, quality that we must not only apply to our current educational environment, but quite frankly, in life in general, right now, we have to learn to be flexible. With nearly 3,500 Chromebooks operating daily out to our students, we're going to continue to do our best to meet those technology needs to keep education moving along as best we can. Another lesson we've learned is really trying to get a balance between the amount of work that we're providing our kids. We continue to try to find that right balance between the work per subject and per grade level. the workload for a first grader might be different than the workload of a fifth grader or maybe even a senior. So we're really still trying to find that balance. We heard from parents that said we had way too much work, and we've heard from parents that said there was too little work. And I think teachers have slowly begun to kind of figure that out, and hopefully we're kind of finding that right blend. Under the type of work, we've asked our teachers to carefully differentiate between quality of the work versus the quantity of the work. I really want to see great quality of work. I'm not interested in 15 worksheets that is just busy work. And I know principals have really worked hard to share with their teachers that very concept about it's a quality of work. The other thing that we feel is very important for parents to understand, we don't expect our parents to become teachers. We want our parents to be there to support and encourage their children. The lessons that their students should be getting are lessons that stretch students, make them work a little bit, but it shouldn't be so impossible that they can't do it and they got to go have the help of mom and dad. We need to be there for that. Our teachers need to be able to support them in that. And that's what we've tried to make sure that we've shared through our principals to our teachers. The grading of the work, this has been a question and we've answered this in several different ways. We're going to utilize a combination of effort and accuracy. All right, effort is just really critically important, that they're trying to work with us. All right, that they're trying to do some of the online work. Accuracy is still important. We got to make sure that they're doing things right. All right, so that's what we're going to use during the fourth 9 weeks. Teachers will be expecting and requiring students to complete work. The work will be graded to assist teachers in future planning. We'll use the work to provide individual support to students along the way. And it'll help us for future planning. And it'll be used as a part of the student's grade card in the fourth 9 weeks. But we have put in a safeguard here, realizing this is a completely new environment, all right? So no student will receive a grade lower than the average of their previous 3 9 weeks, provided they're trying, they're giving us effort, they're doing the best they can. So we won't let any students fail because of this fourth 9 weeks. But we do, and this is critically important, we need them to continue to stay engaged and continue to provide an effort as they continue to work through this online remote learning process. There is a challenge here now, and because of today's announcements, this will be a challenge for us, and that our challenge will be to keep students engaged, providing that effort for the next 5 weeks. We're not in a position to say we're done learning for the rest of the year. The governor was really clear. We're going to continue for the next 5 weeks in this online remote learning environment. So it isn't like we're just done now. We need you to stay engaged. Parents, we need you to support your children and encourage them to stay engaged. Teachers are going to reach out to the students to try to really connect with them one-on-one, small groups. The only thing that will be a struggle for us is if someone just decides not to participate, not to engage at all. We need to really have everyone involved. So those are some lessons that we've learned. Just to give you an idea, under food service, we're going to continue to provide meals for our students at our current 9 locations. Our daily average has leveled off a little bit. We're now just a little over 700 a day. We had a couple that peaked in the 800s, so we continue to monitor it. We believe we'll be able to continue this plan until the end of school, which is May 27th. The summer plan is not really developed yet, but we'll see what that comes about. How does all that happen? We'll continue a rotation of 3 cooks, 10 aides, 4 bus drivers daily. Sometimes they work for an entire week. Sometimes they rotate every other day, but we have enough aides, bus drivers, and cooks to keep this kind of a rotation going without furloughing or letting anybody off work. We have made a change here under Custodial Services. Once spring break ended last week, we started to bring our custodians back onto campus after that first 3 weeks of stay at home. So we have 1 custodian in every single building right now. We have 2 custodians at the high school and the middle school because they're so large. All right, and their primary or their daily responsibilities are to help with the student meals from 11 to 12. It's lawn care, it's deep cleaning of the restrooms, classrooms, and offices. So we're really starting from the top to the bottom, from front to back, and we're really deep cleaning our classrooms. Now that we know that school will be officially, the physical part of school will be closed, we'll probably begin to look at starting into our summer cleaning routines to really dig down even deeper. Some questions that we still need to address that we'll be talking about even as of this afternoon and into tomorrow are spring sports. Now with the governor's announcements, you're going to find that spring sports will be canceled. Spring concerts will be canceled. Senior awards, now that we can't physically come back to a space, we're going to put together a virtual awards ceremony. And so there'll be more information about that coming. Prom and graduation, we're not giving up on those. We now know that some options have been eliminated, perhaps. But prom, we're investigating one option as we speak, and graduation, while we were hoping maybe we could come back to the school or the stadium, we've got a couple other options that will have graduation, and we'll be working on those in the coming weeks. So those are just some additional questions that we need to address. And again, with this whole idea of teaching and learning, we just have to stay strong, think, do, and be positive. So that was a little bit of a COVID update that I wanted to prepare for you there. And you also have asked me, and you always kind of enjoy a Gateway project update. The one thing that we have been blessed with is that we've been able to continue that construction work. And thankfully, nobody on the construction firm has come down with COVID-19, or they may have had to look at shutting that process down. But we've been blessed in that regard. I did go, John and I went over and took some pictures this afternoon just to give you kind of an idea of what's going on over there. So I'll just share some pictures. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. And so there's the field house. You can see the front entrance there now has kind of a portico over top of it. Obviously, there'll be some signage on there. It's starting to look a little bit more complete in the front. You'll notice all the windows are in now. The side doors are in. If you go over and look, this is a view from looking back at the parking lot area. You're just kind of seeing the massive size of the field house. All of these upper windows are in. They're beginning to put in some of the lower windows now. As we walk inside the front door, this picture that I'm circling here at the bottom, that would be just walking in the door. You're seeing that drywall is going up. They're starting up here to lay the grid work for the drop ceiling. If I look just through this hallway, this is what I'm seeing. This is going all the way back to the main part of the field house. This is an example of what the hallways are looking like. And you're seeing that a lot of painting has been done. Drywall is up, drop ceiling is well underway. As we take a look into the weight room, again, we got these beautiful windows at this bottom picture. Those are all in. The ceiling has all been painted black. The walls are painted a really crisp white, a whitish gray. And you're starting to see this all start to come around and materialize. You can kind of get a nice view of the black pictures from this particular view. As you go in, that's the wrestling room. Again, you're seeing the black ceilings up there and the size of that wrestling room. As you walk into the forecourts, it's massive. You can see the ceilings have been painted black. This is actually a view looking from the parking lot end, actually the school end, looking into this area, which is a smaller part of the field house. So you can see the enormity of it when you're looking that direction. Another picture of workers working up top right now. It just feels like it gets bigger and bigger, doesn't it? And then some guys right now, they're putting in speakers. So the speaker systems are going in for the complex. We move over to the transportation and maintenance building. Garage doors are going in. A lot of the internal framing has been done. Again, this is a picture from what'll be the front. There'll be a little portico right here, similar to the portico that is out in front of the field house. This is looking from the other side. You'll notice over here, if you drive by, they're starting on the bus parking lot. So that's kind of exciting to see that work progressing. Again, that's the land that was shared with us from MVNU. So they're building that parking lot. This is actually inside of the bus garage part, the 4 bays. So you can kind of see the size that is. This is a flip side version. This is the mezzanine. Storage will be all up in this area. Again, another picture of the parking lot being excavated away for us. And then this is kind of a nice picture, kind of looking from the parking lot through the trees at what will end up being the front of the transportation maintenance building. A quick peek inside. There are 4 rooms here. This will be transportation secretary. And then over here will be maintenance secretary and maintenance, main entrance. But you're seeing that the walls are going up as we speak. And that gives you just a basic picture of what's going on in the Gateway project. So we thought we'd share those 2 things with you. Any comments?
Just it's very awesome. We're all impressed.
Well, as you get a chance.
We thank the community for their continued support through this.
Absolutely.
And the businesses.
And if anybody has a desire on one of these nicer afternoons to go take a look, I got a couple hard hats. We can give you a little tour. So we'd love to have you. The rest of the information there are just items for information that you would have already had. We really have 2 items for board approval tonight. The first is a provision to make up the school hours during this executive order of the governor of school closure. We have to have a resolution to do the online remote learning for an extended period of time. And item number 2 is a resolution to approve LACA, the Licking Area Computer Association, to move to a COG, which is a Council of Governments. So those 2 items for board approval.
Thank you, Mr. Cedar. I would entertain a motion then to approve those 2 items as read.
So moved, Mary Regola-Dye.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Tim Workman.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. And are there any questions? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Regola-Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. We are now down to curriculum and instruction, and I have the student liaison report entitled Success. If you would like to pull that up. I'd just like to focus on the first one. The OSBA shares instructional resources for at-home learning and teaching. And if you can click on that link.
Well,
While you're doing that, I'll just mention that Achievement Matters and OSBA Student Achievement blog has a full listing of at-home instructional resources for educators and families to use during the school closures. The resources are being updated frequently, so you should check that post often for more go-to information. And there is a link if we can get it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be coming up. It came up earlier, so I'm not sure what the situation is. That something you can share with us? I know we did put the information on the website.
Right. Oh, it is on the website, the link?
It is.
And what is the title? What is it under?
I guess I can go, let me try this, and I can go. Would you like me to go to the website and try to find it?
Sure, that would be helpful. Then people will know how to access it.
All right, Mr. Fry put that under. Well, Mr. Fry, where did he put that? He'll probably pop in here in a minute and I'll share with you where that goes. If you want to maybe share from the website, and we'll let John share with me where he put it.
Okay, there are just all kinds of resources. I was going to have you scroll through them to show you they're under categories. So there are virtual art tours of museums. There are physical activities that students can do. There are also a lot of resource. There we go. As you can see, there's art and educational activities and a lot of at-home learning opportunities, things. There are English language arts. If you'll keep scrolling down, family engagement ideas, even foreign language, if you want to practice your Spanish or Chinese, and general resources. And these would be good for teachers, also for parents and students. If students are bored, they can always look on some of these sites and pick out something of interest and do it on their own. So they're wonderful resources that our Ohio School Boards Association has provided through their Student Achievement Resource Director, and that is Mrs. Kim Miller-Smith. Most of you know her. So the second one then that I'd like to mention is just tips for teachers facing weeks of remote teaching. And the main thing, and I think you mentioned this, Mr. Cedar, is to be flexible, maintain flexibility, and also avoid trying to be perfect. You know, we're all learning and it's not going to be perfect. So we just need to be flexible and nimble and do the best we can and all hang in there together. And then the last thing I would like to mention is the fourth item down. I guess you can't access it, but it's just a reminder that to teachers that we could start now with our efforts to engage students in summer learning and summer reading, and that teachers might want to be planning some reading lists for students because we may be without library services, and we may even want to sponsor some book drives where people can drop off books that we could give out to students so that they'll have reading material during the summer. So I thought that was a really good idea. So that's really all I had with the success for tonight. So we can go ahead and move forward then to the recommended item for board approval, if you'd like to mention that. I think you're muted, Mr. Cedar. Were you going to introduce the Columbus State Community College memorandum?
I'm sorry, I muted myself and I was talking that whole time, so I probably looked kind of foolish. Basically, you select the parent icon at the top of our webpage, and you scroll down under curriculum and instruction. And right here is the OSBA remote learning resources. So all of that valuable information that Dr. Bennett had shared is listed right there under the OSBA remote learning resources. Again, that's under the parent icon. And so we encourage you to take a look at that. Going back to the board agenda, we only have one item for board approval tonight in this section. It's from Columbus State Community College. It's a memorandum of understanding for college credit plus tuitions and fees. And it's there for your approval.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve that item as read.
So moved, Mayor Regola-Dye.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Steve Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And were there any questions? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Regola-Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. We are now to Fiscal Services. If you'd like to share with us, please, Mr. Hankins.
Sure. Pretty boilerplate, except if you study these financial reports on a regular basis, as Mr. Cedar goes to the next page, you will see some negatives in there. That is because as a board, you've authorized me to go out to the county and we get our property taxes, we get advances on them. So we collect all the advances and then we go back in and pay the fees and so on and so forth. Now they're coming out each time, but it's just easier in my world to do that at the end once we've collected our final, I can't call it an advance, but our final sort of settlement page from the county auditor's office. So that's why you'll see a couple things on there. You'll also see a expense reduction for $45,412. That is the insurance money we've received for the stadium light thus far. When we have completed the project, we will submit the invoices and we will get another check for that amount to pay for the one pole that fell over in the windstorm. So the purchase order and stuff is in the works for that. The poles have been ordered, so that stuff is moving, and hopefully by the fall we will have some football and soccer and things going on under those lights.
Sounds good.
So in terms of that page, that's it. Mr. Sheeter, if you would continue on. You see our investments are still holding pretty strong. You know, we brought in the money back to pay for the facilities. But on the other hand, if you'll go to the next page, Mr. Sheeter, about 6 to 8 weeks ago, we did put a little more money out into the market, hopefully some good timing there, kind of before everything went completely haywire. So we've got about $1 million more invested. Obviously, we are very restricted, and there's a lot of Ohio Revised Code that dictates where we can put funds and stuff, but we have increased that. We're not seeing huge returns, but it's better than nothing. So that's our investment portfolio there. If you were to look back to the last board meeting, you would see it's we invested $1 million more, but it's actually made about 10 grand. So it's about $1,010,000 more than the prior month when we had invested it. So that's it in terms of fiscal services, unless you have any questions for me.
Sounds good. Were there any questions?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Gary, in looking at the individual places where the breakdown of the funds, it looks like you took it another 211,000 from the casino, or am I misreading that?
Not sure where you are, Mr. Thompson. Are you looking at the portfolio review or?
No. If you were to go further on down into continue right there. Sorry, next page back up, sir. Under casino funds, it shows 211,000 that it looks like. Did we just receive that, or has that been there for a while?
That's fiscal year to date. So it's just as it's come in, that's where it's been placed.
Yeah. So we're at 1.3 on casino money at this point.
Yeah, my understanding is the board created a separate fund within the general fund when we first started receiving that. So it's been accumulating there. It's really, it's really just a part of our general fund at this point. So.
Yeah, everybody on the board knows I track that pretty heavily because of it's funds obviously that we certainly look towards using for some of the projects that we're working on. So thanks.
Yeah, and that is obviously something we will be keeping an eye on with the economic situation that we find ourselves in as we move forward in the school funding world. So
Gary, this is Mary. How often does that casino money come in?
I would have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
I usually, honestly, Becky takes care of it. It comes in, she deposits it, and I don't even really, I see it in the financial summary just like you do, but I can check on that if that's something you would like to know.
Yes, please. It's not desperately, but I'd just like to keep track of when we might expect further down the road, and we know that it's going to be much, much lower because of the closures. Thank you.
Yep.
Right.
We usually get 2 installments a year on those monies, so we really only get them twice. It isn't something that happens on a regular basis.
Bill is right. My Judy is following along and she just sent me a text, so.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Judy.
Okay, thank you. If there are no other questions, we need to approve that financial report, so I would we have a motion, is that correct?
Not yet.
Not yet,
No, but I'd
okay.
be
So we do need a motion. I would entertain a motion then to approve the financial report.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzman. Do I have a second?
Second, Mary Regola Dye.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. And were there any questions, further questions for Mr. Hankins? If not, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Getzman,
Yes.
Mrs. Regola-Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. We'll move ahead then to the legislative liaison report. And Ms. Regola-Dye, would you present that for us, please?
You'll have to unmute yourself, Ms. Regola-Dye.
Thank you. Technology is my friend. Everybody can go to that link at your leisure. It's the link to all of the bills that have been in the legislature that's been introduced. Of course, the most important one was HB 197 regarding the COVID-19 emergency. And under that, we have no state testing this year, which is quite a relief. And personally, I'm hoping that once they find out how successful our children are without it, that maybe we'll be on the road to recovery from the major testing. And the other bills, as you would go through, there's some that are listed that were introduced in the month of March and April. And those are just, some of them are regarding the COVID-19. Some of them are regarding voting and how to go about that in a different way through the state. But the main thing too that OSBA is still keeping an eye on is that funding for the private and charters for the monies from this state. So that they're still keeping an eye on that, but hopefully there won't be any movement while this emergency is going on. So that's basically it. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me at any time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Cedar, Business Services.
We have one item for board approval tonight. It's a recommendation to approve resolution 2920. It approves a tax exemption for private improvement to real property to be authorized by the enterprise zone within the city of Mount Vernon and Knox County. We often will get into some of these agreements. This particular agreement is for a company who's going to come in and do some kind of elderly housing kinds of pieces. They will hold us harmless to this tax abatement, so we will be paid in full. But we do have to pass a resolution authorizing this process.
Thank you for that explanation. I would entertain a motion then to approve that resolution.
So moved, Mary Regola Dye.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Is that Mr. Thompson or Mr.
Mr.
Workman?
Workman.
Mr. Workman. Okay, thank you. And are there any questions on the resolution? Would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola-Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman, Mrs. Getzman. You can do thumbs up.
I need to unmute. Sorry, yes.
Dr. Bennett,
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, we're moving beyond student services. There weren't any items for this evening, so we are now on personnel, certificated and licensed staff.
Okay.
Mr. Cedar.
I will say just before I pass student services, you'll notice my background screen. In what little extra time Pam has, she takes some amazing pictures. She shares it with us to maybe brighten our day. So my background, she's been doing some really neat eagle shots, but recently she did this duck picture in a pond. And I thought, hey, that sounds like a good background, that I'll just be by the duck picture. So Pam, thank you for sharing those pictures with all of us.
Wow, I'd like to see the eagle ones too.
Yeah, there's some beautiful ones. Under personnel and certificated licensed staff, no items for information. As I mentioned earlier in the addition and deletion section of the agenda, there is a resignation for Deanna Severance. Dee is a fourth grade teacher at Dan Emmett. If you recall, 2 years ago, she retired from Pleasant Street and wasn't quite ready to be done, but she needed to do it at that time. Served 2 amazing years there at Dan Emmett, and I think she just now believes it's time for her to step back a little bit further and do just a little bit less. And so certainly congratulations to her again, but that's the only item in our personnel certificated section.
Okay, thank you. I would entertain a motion then to approve that item.
So moved, Mary Regola-Dye.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzman. And were there any questions other than to thank Dee for her service?
Amen.
Okay, would
Thank
you call
you.
the roll, please?
Ms. Regola-Dye,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett,
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Classified staff.
Well, under classified staff, we have no items for information, really one item for board approval, a couple substitute employment pieces. You might say, well, why are we doing it now? In some cases, we might have to go backwards, but we do have 2 substitutes if we would need them from this point forward.
Okay, thank you. I would entertain a motion then to approve the classified staff item as read.
So moved, Mary Regola-Dye.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
Second, Steve Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And I assume there's no question. Would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola-Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. I think that brings us to the end of our meeting, and I believe you wanted an executive session. Is that correct?
We do.
Mr.
We
Cedar?
have 2 items in executive session. One is for the evaluation of employees, and 2 is for the compensation of employees for executive session. I don't anticipate any board action. I don't anticipate any board action tonight based upon that.
Okay, thank you. Board, then I would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved, Mary Regola-Dye.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. And are there any last minute comments before we go into executive session?
Yes, I would like to say one thing. I know a lot of the county schools tonight are lighting up their football stadiums at 8:20 or their baseball, softball fields. And I just wanted to remind the public that we are unable to light the stadium tonight at 8:20 and that we do not have lights at the softball or baseball fields, so that we cannot light those either. However, I was made aware this afternoon that the Memorial Field softball parks will be lit up tonight at 8:20. So there is some recognition for some of our athletes being held across the street since we do not have those capabilities to do so. So I just wanted to remind the public that it's not that we're not wanting to do so at this point in time, we cannot, so.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Getzman. I appreciate your mentioning that. Anything else?
Just stay strong, Jacket family.
Right.
All
Keep
right.
all of us and all of our families in your hearts and in your prayers.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and go to executive session. We'll stop the live streaming at this point.
I do need to have a motion.
To go into executive session. Do we
We
have
have
one
a
Right.
already?
We have a
We have a
motion.
motion. We need to vote on it. Yes.
Okay.
Would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. So we will go into executive session and then we will come out and adjourn.